Hello, this is the trade site Forex Market Preview and International Economic Data Roadmap for the week beginning Sunday, August 30th, 2014, and ending Friday, September 5th, as we head into the last 4 months of the year here. Monday is a U.S. bank holiday. Everybody's off for Labor Day, so there will be no calls posted on Sunday. We will resume calls Monday afternoon or evening, depending on where you are in the world, as we head out of Labor Day into a short week. Summer is basically behind us. August is usually one of the slower months of the year. We did get a little move finally in the Forex market. It's ironic that we broke out of a 10-month range in what is usually the slowest month of the year and had 2 or 3 days of movement and then sort of stalled out again. That may bode well for creating some energy here going forward, and maybe, hopefully, for the first time this year, really, we've been on half size since last August because the market ranges have been so poor. Hopefully we can start to see some expansion of those ranges. One thing about the last couple of weeks is that even though we did get a move to a new set of pricing in the dollar index, as you can see here, breaking out above that 81.50 level for the first time since last September, and we've been in a 2-point range that whole time, we really didn't see improvement in the intraday ranges, and that's because people aren't necessarily trading right now. So hopefully we don't just settle back under that 81.50 level and fall asleep again now that summer's coming to an end and people in Europe especially getting back to work. You'll also notice that the dollar index got a 13 sell signal on Wednesday, so that move up has exhausted the market, and we'll be potentially looking for a pullback off of that. What's going to be interesting, though, is if we just retest 81.50 off that pullback and then turn and head up, that should lead to some much better trading. Let's look at some of the daily charts of our bigger pairs. Euro dollar now has a 13 buy signal on it. We knew that was coming. We talked about that last week. The pound dollar has done almost nothing this week. Look how flat that is. You'll see it when we get to the intraday action. Aussie dollar also very, very flat. New Zealand dollar has a 13 buy signal last Tuesday, and it's bounced since that. And here's the pound yen, which has been just horribly flat for months now. All right, let's take a look at the intraday, intra-week plays. I should have set up, so I should call it. This is 30-minute bars on the euro dollar for the week. So remember, euro dollar typically trades on average 130 pips of range every day. That's the average over the last 10 years. High to low, it traded less than 80 pips for the whole week. Less than 80 pips for the week. It's supposed to be 130 per day on average. That is still miserable, obviously, so not a great trading week, but not surprising in August and heading into Labor Day weekend. You can see Monday, Tuesday, very flat. That's, by the way, if I slide the chart a little bit, you'll notice we gapped down now last Sunday. Gaps are unusual in Forex, and we didn't even fill it yet. So keep an eye on that if we do head up. Monday, Tuesday, very flat. A little push down Tuesday afternoon when the Fed minutes came out. A little rebound overnight back to Wednesday, put us right back where we started. Not much of a move after that. Let's take a look at the pound and see what that looked like. And you know, based on the daily chart I show you, this is not going to be much improved. And here it is, high to low on the pound for the week, 70 pips. So even though it looks like there's some up and down there, that is such a horribly narrow range, and that condensed the levels. This is just August at this point. This is worse than we've seen it. So we're just careful, cautious. Pulled out a small winner Friday on the euro dollar, closed it out for the end of the week. And that's it. There's nothing else to say except for let's see if volume starts to come back now that everybody comes off of summer, and if there's some action, maybe some international events could get the dollar or all the currencies moving a little better than what we've seen the last year. I really missed trading the Forex market as actively as we used to because it just hasn't been there. All right, so the data this week. Sunday, a lot of data around the globe. New Zealand Overseas Trade Index, Australia's AIG Manufacturing Index, Japan's Capital Spending, Manufacturing PMI out of China, Company Operating Profits out of Australia, Final Manufacturing PMI out of Japan. Going into Monday, now keep in mind, Monday is that U.S. bank holiday. Canada's also off. So even though Europe's got all this manufacturing PMI data out of Europe and Italy and the UK, as you can see, it's probably going to be a dead session with those bank holidays here in the U.S. and Canada. So monetary base out of Japan that night, Monday night. Building approvals and current account out of Australia. 10-year bond auction out of Japan. All right, so we get into Wednesday. Bank of Australia has got their rate announcement. GDP out of Switzerland overnight. Spanish unemployment change. UK construction PMI. Europe PPI. And then here in the U.S., as we open for the week, got the ISM index and manufacturing PMI data along with construction spending, ISM manufacturing prices. Then you jump until 7 in the evening. The UK's got the BRC Shop Price Index. I love this one. It comes out at 7:01 Eastern Time. Not 7:01. They got to be 1 minute after the top of the hour. It's always like that for whatever reason. AIG Services Index out of Australia. Non-manufacturing PMI out of Japan. GDP out of Australia. Going into Wednesday, Halifax HPI out of UK. Services PMI data out of Spain, Italy, the broad European sector, and the UK. Retail sales out of the European sector. Bank of Canada has their rate announcement. Factory orders out of the US. Total vehicle sales and beige book in the afternoon here in the US. Retail sales and trade balance out of Australia at 9:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Wednesday. Bank of Japan's press conference. We got the Spanish 10-year bond auction. Retail PMI out of Europe. French 10-year bond auction. And then here we go. Rate announcements out of the Bank of England. Rate announcements out of the ECB. U.S. ADP non-farm employment change. Canada's trade balance. So we've got rate announcements, both of the key ones out of Europe. We've got trade balance out of the U.S. That's one of our big three each month, along with those rate announcements only a couple hours earlier. And the weekly unemployment claims, along with non-farm productivity, and then final services PMI out of the U.S. We've got natural gas, crude oil inventories. That is going to be the one. Going into Thursday will be less size than usual with so many big numbers that could totally shake your positions. We don't trade news. Next up, going into Friday, Bank of Japan monthly report, leading indicators, German industrial production, consumer inflation expectations, revised GDP out of Europe, unemployment rate out of Canada, unemployment rate out of the US. That's another one of our big three. So 2 days in a row, we're going to have big numbers that can move the market. We always go less size ahead of those numbers, as you know. So what does that leave us with? Sunday night, no calls for the holiday. Monday and Tuesday, starting out, coming out of summer, I'm not expecting things to be heavy at all. And then going into Thursday and Friday, we drop our size down because we got so much big data that can spike the market on you and go from there. Still looking forward to seeing, though, if this starts to pick up a bit in Forex coming out of the summer. Frankly, all the markets could use a pickup. They've been slow the last few weeks for sure. We will be in the lab helping you out with whatever you need. Charts, as usual, brought to you by eSignal 11. Have a great Labor Day weekend.